2000. A new year, a new century, but most importantly, it was the start of a new millennium. Also known as Y2K, many people in the 90s were either excited for it or terrified of it. What could 2000 bring? Spoiler alert, but nothing bad really happened when the clock hit midnight. As many people were counting down the days in the final months of 1999, Sega was all set to release their next flagship console worldwide. On September 9th, 1999, or 9/9/99, the Sega Dreamcast was finally released in the United States, with one of its many launch titles being Sonic Adventure, Sonic's first real 3D outing. Not only this, but this specific era, which is known as the Dreamcast or Adventure era today, completely reinvented Sonic from the Sonic that we previously knew. He was taller, he was cooler, and he brought a much more hardcore and mature vibe. As a young child who was a fan of Sonic in the 90s, how did this reinvention of Sonic matter to people like me? What I consider special about this reinvention is that it came in a much more subtle way. Even though it was in your face, Sonic still felt like Sonic. Let's turn back the clock just a little bit. I became a Sonic fan in 1994, starting with Sonic 2 on the Sega Genesis, and then I got the rest of the Sonic Genesis games one by one. Besides those games, I also loved the cartoons and what little merchandise I had. For some reason, in the 90s, I missed the Game Gear and the Saturn, but at the end of the day, I don't really consider that a big loss, as the Genesis was where Sonic's main flagship quality titles could be found. So, to be honest with you, in the late 90s when Sonic Adventure was nearing release, Pokémon was actually my number one. So much so that the Dreamcast, along with Sonic Adventure, completely flew under my radar. Pokémon was literally everywhere, to the point that it seemed like it eclipsed almost everything for just a small blip in time. Or at least, that's how it seemed to me as an 8-year-old in 1999. The Dreamcast and Sonic Adventure released without me really knowing, but I was aware of the Nintendo 64, even though I didn't have one. Kids in my grade talked about Pokemon Stadium, Hey You Pikachu, and the first time I had even heard of Super Smash Bros. Was simply because my friends were excited you could play as a Pikachu with a hat. I mean, then I saw the commercials with them beating up each other in big mascot costumes, but that's besides the point. The following year, at the tail end of 2000, I was looking in a Toys R Us catalog and discovered the Dreamcast. I saw Sonic in his modern iteration for the very first time. I couldn't believe it. Sonic was back again, and I needed to play it. So I asked my mom to get me a Dreamcast, because it was so close to my 10th birthday. So we headed to Funkoland to get one. For those of you who don't know, Funkoland was basically like GameStop before it was GameStop. Anyway, when we got there, Sonic Adventure was sold out at the time, but the newly released Sonic Shuffle was not. So that's the game I started off with. When walking out of the store, I studied the cover, front, and back. I was so excited. When I got home, I hooked up my new Dreamcast console and I put Sonic Shuffle in, and I got reintroduced to the characters I've known for almost my entire life. Sonic and Tails were pretty much exactly what I expected them to be like, but this was the very first time I had heard Knuckles speak, and his voice was much deeper than I thought it would be. I remember specifically going to school the next day and telling my friends how cool he sounded. Eggman sounded like what I expected too. And then there's Amy. Amy is a character I did not have much experience with at this point because I never got Sonic CD in the 90s, and the copy of Sonic CD I had for my PC would not work on my Windows ME. I only knew Amy from Sonic R, which was another PC game I played frequently before shortly getting my Dreamcast. But she looked completely different. But I didn't care. Sonic, Tails, and Eggman gave me a sense of familiarity, Knuckles having a speaking role, and Amy's presence brought novelty. So, what can I say about Sonic Shuffle? I played this game religiously. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I know this is not a good game by technical standards, but it is one that I played at the right place and time. Patience and youth, from my experience, are often a package deal. Because of this, I was able to not only excuse the bullshit this game threw at me, but I also just couldn't notice it. I mean, this was my very first console game that used discs. I had nothing else to compare the absurd loading times to. In other words, my standards were fluid and not yet solid. So to me, this was normal. Because of this, I understand why so many people who grew up with Sonic 06 still like that game. They were in the right place and the right time for it, just like I was with Sonic Shuffle. As I grew up and my standards solidified, I realized that this game is not very good. But you can still have love for something that isn't good. I mean, there's nuance to everything after all. Anyway, I beat Sonic Shuffle's story mode, enjoyed the minigames and everything. I brought my friends over frequently and we would play it for hours. I remember picking Sonic or Tails usually. I also remember this is where I would first see characters like Big the Cat, E102 Gamma, and the Chow, who my friends and I called the Raindrop Dude, because we had no other information. Unfortunately, my Sonic Shuffle friends were about ready to move out of state, and I would never get to play it with them again. But I do remember one time before they moved, one of them told me that they heard about a game called Sonic Adventure 2 and a new character called Shadow. It definitely seemed new, as this Shadow character was not playable in Sonic Shuffle, of which the playable cast was lifted from Sonic Adventure. Shortly after this, those friends moved away and the game wasn't so fun by myself anymore. I got Sonic Adventure in early 2001, and this is what I needed. The story was incredibly immersive. I got to see what Big, Gamma, and the Chow were all about. After coming home from school every day and watching Toonami, I would boot up my Dreamcast and play the shit out of Sonic Adventure. In hindsight, I realized it was most likely me running around in adventure fields and replaying stages, since it took what felt like months to beat. I beat Tails' campaign first, and I was so proud of myself. Then I beat Gamma's campaign, and the rest followed in an order I can't exactly remember. But it was awesome. I loved looking down at my VMU and seeing the pixel art of the characters flash by as I played. I did play the Chow Garden a bit, but it wasn't here that got me hooked. More on that a little bit later. But this game, man, this game is what added so much to these characters that I knew and loved since the 90s. Sonic felt like a real person this time, and the world felt just as real. During this small pocket of time, I remember getting Sonic Adventure Bubble Bath Soap and the same Sonic pasta from the mid-90s, but this time it had Sonic Adventure branding. Little things like this that I just stumbled upon at the store without even looking for it is what made me realize that even though it felt like Sonic disappeared for a little bit in the late 90s, he was back. Once I beat Sonic Adventure, I wanted more. In summer 2001, I remembered what my friends said before moving away about there being a sequel to Sonic Adventure, and I told one of my other friends about it, and he just so happened to have a demo disc of Sonic Adventure 2. So, without hesitation, he let me borrow his copy of Sonic Adventure 2, The Trial. The game felt like more of what I wanted, but it also had enough of the new factor to keep me even more engaged. I remember the moment the gun truck started chasing me, I was screaming! My friend came running to me from the other room, and we were screaming at the TV screen together in excitement. I just had to have this game. So, in the fall of 2001, I saved up enough money to go to Best Buy, and I bought Sonic Adventure 2 for the Dreamcast. This game was a bit easier to beat due to its overall linear nature, but I loved everything about it. The Chow Garden was also better, and what hooked me this time was the world and atmosphere. Everything felt so real, and every character was just so cool. I had other friends that would come over and we'd play the multiplayer mode in Sonic Adventure 2 together. It brought so much more to the table. This is also when I got curious, and I wondered if there were any cool Sonic toys. I went online, and sure enough, I discovered that there were Sonic Adventure toys by a company called Resource and another company called Toy Island. So, I learned that they were being sold at Toys R Us, and I went there with my mom, and I was able to get the first wave of the Resource toys, that being Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, and an 11-inch talking Sonic with a gold base. My friend and I would put the 11-inch Sonic on the toilet seat, and we would press the button on the base so it would say, "Aw, yeah, this is happening!" And we would laugh like crazy. I was also able to find the Toy Island Big the Cat figure, but nothing else. I knew Resource had a second wave that had Amy, Big, and Gamma, but I could only find them on eBay for prices higher than my mom was willing to spend. Oh, to be a kid without a disposable income. What I really wanted the most, though, were the little bendable figures of Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy when I discovered an article on IGN about them that's still up to this day. Incredible stuff. I also discovered the Sonic Adventure plush dolls on Sega's website, but was unfortunately not able to get them at the time. Oof. Then, kids at school were talking about newer consoles, like the PlayStation 2 and Xbox. In fact, my friend that would play Sonic Adventure 2 with me had moved on to the Xbox and all the newer, more mature games with it. The Dreamcast's presence was quickly fading from word of mouth. I noticed there was less and less of it the more I went to the store. This is when I went online and discovered that the Dreamcast was discontinued, and Sega was never going to make another console ever again. But I did quickly discover that Sonic was going to make the jump to Nintendo? What? Nintendo? Sega's rival from the 90s? Yeah, somehow that happened, but I just accepted it pretty quick. I was a young child after all. So, after the Nintendo GameCube was released, a newer, upgraded version of Sonic Adventure 2 came shortly after, in early 2002. I mean, I guess this was cool, since most of my friends that I knew grew up on Nintendo, and it was only natural that they'd get a GameCube. I remember I pressured a lot of my friends who had a GameCube to get Sonic Adventure 2 Battle so they could try it out, to which they did. I personally didn't really feel the need for Sonic Adventure 2 Battle at first, since I had it for the Dreamcast. I mean, it was the same exact game, right? Just with a little bit better multiplayer? Very soon I would find out this was not the case. I had a friend named Jacob, and I would go over to his house and frequently play Sonic Adventure 2 Battle with him. And this is when I discovered I wanted this game. And it's all because of the Chao Garden. For those of you who don't know, the Chao Garden in Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic Adventure 2 Battle are completely different. For example, there was no Chao Karate, you couldn't see the stats very easily, and the kindergarten was basically just non-existent in comparison. There was just so much more to do, and it felt like everything that was missing was finally here. Plus, being able to name them like that, it just felt so much more immersive. And finally, the ability to transfer them to Sonic Advance instead of the VMU was a much better idea. So, throughout summer 2002, I would go to his house and we would raise Chao together for hours. I remember I had an angel Chao that I raised called Haya. Oh, Haya, you were my little buddy. I raised him, had him play karate, and his stats were incredibly high. Then one day, my friend Jacob and I got into a fight over something stupid, as kids do, and he killed Haya as revenge. Oh, that little bastard. I was so upset, but we were able to make up after that. But I couldn't shake this feeling that I just had an incomplete version of Sonic Adventure 2. I needed Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. It bugged me a lot. So, in summer 2002, I was gifted a Midnight Blue Game Boy Advance along with Sonic Advance, and I played the hell out of it. It was a lot like the 2D Sonic games for the Genesis that I enjoyed as a kid. I also got the link cable so I could take my Chao with me in case that bastard Jacob wanted to kill them again. Around this time, I was also just diving into the Archie comics, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't like them. I did not like them at all. The stories were a bit too much for my tastes, and I liked the covers, and collecting them was pretty cool, but that's really about it. As a small follow-up to the toys I looked for as a kid, I just wanted to mention that around this time in 2002, I went to Kmart, rest in peace, and I managed to find a Joyride Sonic Adventure 2 Battle Sonic figure. I mean, I had to beg my mom for it as we walked through the store, but she eventually allowed it, so I'm so glad she did because that shit became so hard to find. Back to the gaming side of things. Sonic Mega Collection came out in late 2002, and my friends who had a GameCube were able to play all the older Sonic games that I played pretty much a decade ago for the very first time. But one thing was certain, no new Sonic games were coming out for the Dreamcast, and I needed a GameCube. I did finally manage to get one for my birthday in December 2002, along with Sonic Adventure 2 Battle and Sonic Mega Collection. Finally, I had the definitive version of Sonic Adventure 2 and the definitive version of the Chao Garden. I was all set. But shortly afterwards, I thought it was weird that Sonic Adventure 1 wasn't getting the same re-release treatment. Just where in the hell was it? Now comes 2003, which was what I would consider in hindsight my favorite year to be a Sonic fan in the adventure era. So, in spring 2003, Sonic Advance 2 released. I remember playing it on my Game Boy Advance in the back seat of the car as Nelly's new hit song, Air Force Ones, played non-stop. This game also introduced Cream the Rabbit to the Sonic cast, which I thought was a great new addition. Plus, she was incredibly fun to play as. My favorite Sonic website to frequent at the time was Sonic HQ. It was there I noticed an announcement of a Sonic anime. Wow, a Sonic anime? I thought that was officially the coolest thing ever. I was already pretty familiar with anime at the time, and I began watching it in the mid-90s, starting with Sailor Moon, Pokemon, and Dragon Ball Z. And as I mentioned earlier, I watched Toonami pretty much after school every day in the early 2000s. So I was hoping that once this new Sonic anime came out in English, that it would eventually air there. I mean, Hamtaro could, so why couldn't Sonic? The new Sonic anime, called Sonic X, began airing in Japan during April 2003, and episodes released online that I had to download. YouTube and other streaming sites didn't exist yet, and the only way you could really watch videos was if they were in Flash format and on websites like Newgrounds or Funny Junk. So I had to search around and find them, download them, and watch them via Real Player in shitty quality and no subtitles. But I didn't care. I downloaded the episodes every week and I loved it. Episodes 1 and 5 were my particular favorites to rewatch. I remember I would show all my friends these Japanese episodes, and they also enjoyed it. Shortly afterwards, though, an English version was announced for a block called The Fox Box, starting in the fall, and I was ecstatic. Summer 2003 was approaching, which meant almost 3 entire months of no school. And Sonic Adventure was finally getting the re-release I was waiting for, called Sonic Adventure DX, Director's Cut. Who knows why it's called Director's Cut? I don't know, however, there were still a couple of weeks left, and I was made aware of an affordable demo disc that had a handful of playable levels from the game. So I tracked one down at KB Toys, also rest in peace, for $10, and it had demos of Sonic Adventure DX, Beautiful Joe, Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg, and Splinter Cell. Even though I already had it for the Dreamcast, there was a novelty as to how Sonic Adventure DX felt. Maybe it was the graphics, or maybe it was the GameCube controller. I'm honestly not sure, but to my young mind, this was absolutely exciting. I did break my wrist at the roller rink about a week prior to getting this demo disc, and I was thankfully still able to hold the controller, but it brought a lot of comfort as my wrist healed. Sonic Adventure DX was the very first Sonic game I pre-ordered and got on day one, which is something I do for every Sonic game I wanted since then. With it, I got this little cardboard standee for it, simply because I asked the guy at GameStop for it. The GameStop location I bought this from actually used to be the Funko Land I bought my Dreamcast from almost 3 years prior, so that's pretty cool. So I finally got the game and I played it all summer 2003. I felt like it was the definitive version of Sonic Adventure, just like how Sonic Adventure 2 Battle was, even though I felt the graphics were a little inconsistent. I thought the addition of the Game Gear games was great, simply because when I was getting my Game Boy Advance the year prior, I was given a choice. My mom told me she would buy me a used Game Gear and all the available Sonic games for it, or a Game Boy Advance and Sonic Advance. After a couple of days of thinking on it, I chose the Game Boy Advance and Sonic Advance, since I believed in quality over quantity, and the unlockable Game Gear games in Sonic Adventure DX made me realize I made the correct choice after all. During June 2003, McDonald's had a new Sonic campaign! I consider myself very fortunate to have gotten some of the toys from the original Sonic 3 run back in 1994, but because I was a pants-shitting toddler, I have spotty memories of it. But this time, I was old enough for it. But the only thing that sucked was that they weren't little figurines or wind-up toys, but rather basic LCD toys. I didn't really care too much for them, and I wanted figurines instead. But hey, it was Sonic, and I took what I could get. Thanks to the internet, I was able to keep track of this Sonic campaign at McDonald's, and I went there frequently to get all of the toys. Speaking of the internet, when the new Sonic website at the time called Sonic Central was advertising the McDonald's campaign, it would have a few music tracks that would autoplay on the website. Because advertisements for the McDonald's Sonic toys were front and center, I cannot stop associating White Jungle from Sonic Adventure 2 with McDonald's. So, thanks a lot for that, Sonic Central. Also during summer 2003, advertising for Sonic Heroes, a brand new Sonic game, began to appear. Besides it finally being a main new Sonic game, what stood out to me the most were the Chaotix. Now, these were characters I definitely recognized because I was one of the unfortunate people who in the 90s got a 32X and Knuckles Chaotix. So I was absolutely hyped, and I could not wait to hear what they would sound like. As summer 2003 came to an end, my family moved a few towns over. This meant that all of my friends that I bonded with, including the ones that liked Sonic, were no longer up the street or at school, and I had to start all over. Here's something important that I have to bring up. A few kids in my grade prior to moving made me somewhat self-conscious about liking Sonic because they would bully me for it. But that's simply because they wanted to bully me and they trash-talked whatever I liked. But at the time I didn't realize it. So the next day after moving into our brand new house, my mom pressured me to put the controller down and walk around the neighborhood with my sister and find some new friends. And I'm so glad I did. Walking down the street, we reached the corner and there were a group of 3 kids around our age playing. My sister had her friend with us and all 3 of us went up to the group of kids and we introduced ourselves. The 2 kids that lived there introduced themselves as Daniel and Rebecca, and the 3rd one, who was visiting, introduced himself as Justin. Out of all the kids there, he was closest to me in age, and I clicked with him more so than Daniel and Rebecca. Eager to see if he had similar interests as me, I remembered how certain kids at school bullied me for liking Sonic, so instead of asking him about Sonic, I instead asked him if he liked Pokemon, to which he said yeah. After his warm response, I then felt comfortable enough asking him if he liked Sonic, to which his face lit up and he went, "Dude, that's one of my favorites!" And then I knew I had a best friend right then and there. Justin and I created an inseparable brotherly bond since then, and you'll even see me stream or make content with him to this day under his handle, Jopla. Justin and I would hang out almost every day. He had the limited edition black Dreamcast, which I thought was really, really cool. And we worked towards getting all 130 emblems in Sonic Adventure DX. I mean, I never bothered with the Dreamcast version because Metal Sonic wasn't a reward in that game. We played a lot of the aforementioned GameCube demo disc I had, and we both loved Beautiful Joe. Justin didn't really like Billy Hatcher very much due to another kid named Danny that we would sometimes hang out with. He was always going on about it, and because of how it said from the creators of Sonic on the cover, one of his classmates thought Billy Hatcher and Sonic were the exact same thing. I mean, at least I was still hyped for it. During this time, I showed Justin the Sonic toys I had, which were the first Resource Wave, the Toy Island Big the Cat, and the Joyride Sonic Adventure 2 Sonic. To my surprise, he also had Sonic toys. Almost all the ones I was missing, in fact. He had all of the Toy Island toys, including those bendable figures I mentioned earlier, and he had the Resource Amy too. His favorite one was the Toy Island Knuckles, because that was his favorite character. He would often bring his toys over to my house and we'd play with both of our collections together, and we would even make videos with them. It wasn't long before I was able to get the rest of the Sonic toys from Toy Island that I was missing, due to Toy Island reprinting them for Sonic X the following year. So much was happening at this time, I'm doing my best to keep track of it all, but I told Justin about Sonic X's English dub that was about to air on the Foxbox, and he was also really excited for it. Episode 1 premiered, and I noticed lots of differences between the English and Japanese versions, but my little kid mind didn't care, and I was just incredibly hyped for it. Even the voices. I knew they were different, but I thought they all sounded pretty great. So after it finished airing, I ran down the street to Justin's house to see if he watched it, and he did. We spent pretty much the entire day talking about how cool Sonic X was. After that, Justin would spend the night almost every Friday night, so we could wake up on Saturday and watch it together. I remember we overslept for episode 6 and we were both very disappointed. But it was okay because the Japanese version was available online and I showed it to him on a dedicated Sonic X website called sonicanime.net. At this point, Sonic X was more than just a 78 episode anime for me. It's technically a product of the Dreamcast and Adventure era, but it shaped so much for me in my adolescent years that I could probably make its own dedicated video on it. Which I probably will someday. My birthday rolled around in December 2003, and Sonic Heroes was on the horizon. I was so excited. I downloaded pictures of the Sonic Heroes artwork and printed it out, placing it all over my room. I daydreamed about Sonic Heroes toy playsets where you could connect characters together in various forms and make teams. For my birthday, I requested Mario Kart Double Dash with the demo disc simply because it came with a Sonic Heroes demo, and Justin and I really wanted to play it over Christmas break. When we weren't playing Baby Park over and over again, we were playing the Sonic Heroes demo, and we were both incredibly ready for the game. And when I wasn't playing the Sonic Heroes demo, I was taking advantage of the time off during Christmas break to unlock Amy in Sonic Advance 2. That was hard. Sonic Heroes finally came out stateside right as Christmas break was ending in January 2004, and I picked it up from Best Buy day one, and Justin raced over to my house so we could play multiplayer together. At school, all I could talk about was how cool Sonic Heroes was, and I suppose my persistent praise of Sonic worked on my friends, since they all managed to get their own copy of Sonic Heroes too. Due to how young I was, I don't think I minded all the crap the game threw at me, since if I wasn't at school, I was playing my GameCube. But these days, I find myself having little patience for this game. What else can I say about 2004? Sonic Battle and Sonic Advance 3 came out. Those were great releases for the Game Boy Advance, but I still found myself enjoying Sonic Advance 2 more. I don't know if that's considered a hot take, but personally, yeah, Sonic Advance 2 is my favorite. Oh yeah, there was also another Sonic McDonald's campaign with more LCD toys. Yay! And now this is where I consider it the end of the Adventure Dreamcast era. I still think Shadow the Hedgehog counts, but now it's more or less lumped into the Dark Age stuff. And there does seem to be a pretty clear divide between the Adventure era and the Dark era. Lots of people will say Shadow was the beginning, but at the time, I remember that Sonic Adventure DX and Sonic Heroes was technically the start of it. This is when Sonic's reputation began to tank, at least among game journalists. Now, this is as far as I'll cover here, and maybe I'll make one for the Dark era sometime, starting with Shadow. To sum it up, this time period was kind of all over the place for me, but it's also my favorite Sonic era. It was likely due to me being in my young adolescent years, so I was highly impressionable. Also, having internet access was something I couldn't take for granted. I was able to consistently keep up with Sonic thanks to it, and without it, I might have missed a lot of things like I did during the 90s. Like Sonic Pinball Party, for example. I completely forgot to mention that one. It released in spring 2003 and was only available at Target. So, without the internet, I never would have even known about this game's exclusivity. Even though I was a young child in the 90s when Sonic came out, I was still a child as the Adventure era was happening. There was no clear divide between modern and classic Sonic. They were both Sonic, and it was simply a change of art style, something I was already well used to at this point. Green eyes were simply a cool addition, and Sonic being able to speak meant that the hardware was finally capable of such a feat. In the 90s, Sonic was drawn differently almost every time, but you knew what he was supposed to be despite the slightly distinct look depending on the media. Ice and Water, Steak and Cow, you get the idea. Sonic was always changing, like I was, and it was like I was growing up with him. I consider myself incredibly fortunate to have grown up with both of these eras, and it's something that will always shape me as a Sonic fan. Other eras worth talking about are the Dark and Meta eras, but this is all the time I have for today. Did you guys have a Dreamcast? What was your experience like during the Adventure era? Or did you first play these games after the Adventure era was already over? Let me know and I'll catch you guys later. By the way, make sure to check out Justin's channel here too. He made a couple of videos on his experiences with Sonic, and they're definitely worth checking out. There's one right here on the right side of the screen, so make sure you click that. Thanks, guys.